Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Staying hydrated is key to our existence, and we know that water is probably the body's most important nutrient, accounting for nearly 70% of body weight in a normal adult. And we certainly have all heard that during the summer months, the hot months in particular, we are more prone to excessive fluid loss, which can lead to dehydration. But interestingly enough, we often overlook what can happen in terms of the winter months, and maybe our fluid intake goes down a little bit more in the winter, so we can actually fall victim to dehydration even in the cold temperatures. And there's been extensive research looking at just that. We certainly know that hot climates, warm weather has been recognized for years to be that link to dehydration. But initially, there were very few studies that were assessing the effects of cold-induced dehydration and how that can impact thermoregulation in terms of how well our body maintains proper temperature, and recognizing that fluid balance in the cold specifically can really wreak havoc. So today I want to talk about what we can do during the cold winter months to make sure that we're getting in proper nutrients and proper fluid. So I have a really interesting way for you to accomplish this. So I'm Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and I want to talk about staying hydrated in the winter months. As I said, most people associate dehydration with hot weather. And I certainly talk about this quite a bit being here in Florida, that our alkalizer powder can be incredibly beneficial for that extensive fluid loss that can occur in the hotter temperatures. So that's a combination of potassium, magnesium, and beta-alanine. So we know that that's very beneficial. But what I want to talk about in more detail today is looking at dehydration that can occur in the cold weather, and understanding that cold weather tends to move blood and other body fluids from your arms and your legs to the core. So this is kind of the opposite of what we see occurring in the hot months. So your blood and other fluids will start to go towards the center of the body, which can increase your urine output. We also know that cold weather can decrease our body's thirst sensation. So maybe you're just not feeling as thirsty as when it's warm out, and maybe you're sweating and you're like, maybe I should need to drink some more water. In the winter, we don't experience that as frequently. So we can have this decrease in thirst sensation. That can be an early sign of mild dehydration. So if you're like, I'm just not that thirsty, then we need to pay attention to that. We can also look at other symptoms of dehydration: dry mouth, fatigue, muscle cramps, certainly dry skin, feeling lightheaded or dizzy. These are all things that can occur. Even getting a headache can be an indication of dehydration. And the Human Performance Resource Center at the Uniformed Services University looked specifically at the impact of dehydration in cold months for military personnel, which I thought was kind of an interesting spin on dehydration studies, because like I said, the majority of studies on dehydration are looking at, really hot temperatures. And in this particular study, they were looking specifically at those military personnel who are exposed to cold temperatures and looking at the nutritional problems that could be associated with those cold temperatures. And one of the things in particular was looking at body fluid status, looking at factors that could cause that dehydration in those cold induced states. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, how do we go about making sure that, number one, we're getting enough fluid in, and that we're not just, drinking water, that we're also getting some other nutrients. So I started thinking, and I thought, we have a really wonderful product, and it's our Purple's HX. And this is great for a variety of different reasons. So first and foremost, what the Purple's HX actually is a blend of the purple family of fruits and vegetables. So it has things in it such as blueberry extract. There's blackberry extract, black cherry extract in this. We have black currant, which we know that the black currant has been touted for years as being very beneficial for eye health, for example, because it has a high amount of cyanidin 3 glycoside in it. And we know it's that cyanidin 3 glycoside that really can help with the rhodopsin within the eye. That's the light absorber. So for people who struggle with having good visual acuity in dimmer light or at nighttime, that is the direct result of the rhodopsin not properly working. We know that cyanidin 3 glycoside coming from things such as black currant can really help to potentiate much more support when it comes to that rhodopsin within the eye. So what else is in this? Well, we have carrot extract. We have beetroot extract. So many of these things you should probably already say, okay, well, I know carrots are packed with carotenoids. I know that the beetroot extract, certainly that's beneficial when it comes to nitric oxide release in the body to help to support healthy blood pressure already within a normal range, for example. So we know all of these wonderful nutrients and how they have individually been studied. We have cabbage extract. There's goji berry extract in this, mangosteen fruit, and there's also taurine, that very important amino acid that's really critical for the excitable tissues throughout the body. So we think about areas that are excitable tissues or have excitable cells. Think about the heart, think about the brain. So really kind of some cool things that are in the Purple's HX. We also have carnitine in this. We know that carnitine is that driver for cellular energy production. So carnitine helps to pull the fatty acids from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell to be made into energy in the form of ATP. So we have all of these wonderful things packed into the Purple's HX. You take 1 scoop, add it in with water, and for some people, maybe they'll do 6 ounces of water, 8 ounces of water, whatever is your fancy on that. But the key point to walk away from is to recognize that in doing this, especially during the winter, not only are we helping to enhance our fluid intake, which is key, we're also loading our body with all of these powerful polyphenols, these powerful anthocyanins that come from these purple pigmented fruits and vegetables that can really help to fend off a lot of oxidative stress. At the same time, we also know all of these other benefits that go along with this. And we know the science behind blueberry extract, for example, when it comes to brain health. I always default back to this really amazing study that was published in the Nutritional Neuroscience Journal revealing that there was an increase in neural response in men and women who had mild cognitive impairment when they supplemented with blueberry extract for just 16 weeks. And the way that they were able to determine this was via functional MRIs. So basically, they were looking at their brain activity on an MRI prior to giving them blueberry extract. Then they gave them blueberry extract for 16 weeks. And what it equivalated out to, the amount of anthocyanins, these powerful antioxidants that are derived from the blueberry, was roughly about a half a cup of whole blueberries taken twice daily. So we're looking at like a cup of blueberries per day is what they estimated this extract out to be. So after 16 weeks, they found this enormous difference in these functional MRIs. They were looking at an increase in the blood oxygen level, looking at 3 different regions within the brain after these folks were taking that blueberry extract for just 4 months. And what they actually concluded in this, they said in the absence of effective pharmacotherapy, which means drug treatment, such nutritional approaches may be of particular value for aging adults with risk for the development of late life dementia, things such as Alzheimer's disease. So we know this about things such as blueberry extract, and it is from those powerful anthocyanins. We know that the anthocyanins is what gives those berries and those other vegetables that very rich deep red and purple colors. And it is through that has been shown to have this really high amount of antioxidant value to it. And there is certainly accumulating evidence that much of the health promoting benefits that come from these types of fruits and vegetables is directly from these bioactive compounds. And this is why when we look at all of the different things that are packed into the Purple's HX, we can kind of take a step back and say, wow, so not only can we target the issue with potential fluid loss during the winter, because maybe we're just not as thirsty and just having a cold drink of water in the winter just doesn't sound appealing, but what if we put in a scoop of this Purple's HX, which is giving us taurine, that really great amino acid that's required for the function of the heart, function of the brain. It has that carnitine to help all of the cells throughout the body in terms of creating energy. And everyone needs a little extra energy in the winter, of course, because maybe you're just not as active as you are when the weather's a little bit nicer. So we know this. And we also know that when we combine this with all of these extracts from blueberry and blackberry and blackcurrant, cherry and beetroot extract, all of these powerful food-based nutrients that really help to heighten our body's ability to fend off oxidative stress. When we look at the anthocyanins that are coming from those berries, there's strong scientific evidence out there showing how well that can combat oxidative stress, which we know is a major factor in the pathogenesis of so many chronic disease states. We certainly know that there are many mechanisms beyond the antioxidant value of these different nutrients. When we look at the functionality of blood vessels, for example, we certainly can see how it can target cholesterol. So the LDL, that's our bad cholesterol, quote unquote, the low density lipoproteins. And as I mentioned, the black currant extract, just that value alone in terms of supporting your eyes and having the carrot in there, another powerful carotenoid. So really, when we look at the Purple's HX, it's not just this wonderful blend of antioxidants. It is a wonderful blend of things to support the heart, the brain, the eyes, the muscles, pretty much everything throughout the body. And at the same time, we are targeting the issue with winter dehydration, which oftentimes we quite commonly overlook. And we certainly don't want to be doing that. I mean, when we can look and say, hey, just by incorporating in 1 scoop of the Purple's HX every day, I'm going to help to optimize cognitive function. I'm going to help to optimize cardiac function and circulatory function, understanding that all of these nutrients have been studied and shown in terms of easing inflammation, for example. We look at the lack of blood flow to the brain. This is another area that certainly we have looked at in recent years when it comes to mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia. These are all factors that I think need to be addressed and technically just kind of assessed overall. And why is this a problem in the U.S.? Well, we know that when it comes to fruit and vegetable intake, Americans do a horrible job, just a horrible job. When they did a recent study looking at the dietary intake of an average American when it comes to fruit intake, and you're supposed to be getting 1 to 2 cups per day, and 75% of Americans don't hit that mark. Then when we look and say, okay, well, how bad do we do with vegetables? Well, that's even worse. You're supposed to get 2 to 3 cups of vegetables per day, and the average American is 87% do not achieve that mark. So just those stats alone show us just how technically deficient we can be in all of these nutrients that the body requires. So these antioxidants to fend off oxidative stress, to make sure that our bad cholesterol doesn't become oxidized and dangerous, to make sure that we're supporting our vasculature, to make sure that we're supporting the excitable cells in the body, those tissues in the heart and in the brain, to make sure that we are giving ourselves that ability to generate energy. All of these things are so important. And then we look at the influence of cold temperatures and how that can impact our fluid balance. So one way to offset that is making sure that we are targeting the factors that can cause dehydration. So not having enough fluid is not going to be a good idea during the winter. But we can combat that by utilizing something such as Purple's HX. So I certainly encourage you to go to our website and check it out. It is one of my favorite formulations. And just for the sheer fact of it's just a powerhouse of all of these anthocyanins coming from those fruits and vegetables. But the fact that it's then enhanced even further with that taurine, with that carnitine, really makes it just a wonderful choice across the board. And I must mention, it tastes amazing. So instead of getting up in the morning and having some type of weird juice that you get that's, mainly sugar and not a lot of actual fruit, but we try to pass it off as juice, swap that out and go with something like the Purple's HX. So that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health, and we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.